From the moment I first met Liam, it felt like something out of a fairy tale. We had locked eyes across a crowded cafe on a crisp October morning, drawn together by a chemistry that felt almost magical, immediate, and undeniably rare. Within just weeks, Liam was already a regular feature in my life, seamlessly integrating into my daily routine, my circle of friends, and even charming my usually skeptical family. He seemed to embody every ideal partner characteristic I'd dreamed of: attentive, funny, ambitious, supportive, and always deeply respectful of who I was and my aspirations. When he proposed beneath a starlit sky during a weekend getaway in the mountains, I had no hesitation. I felt like I was living a life most could only dream of, and the future stretched ahead, rich with possibility and overflowing with happiness. We immediately began preparations for what we agreed would be a beautiful yet intimate wedding, celebrating our commitment in front of those who meant the most to us. Every detail, from the elegant ivory lace dress I chose, to the delicate floral arrangements carefully planned to match the rustic charm of our chosen venue, was meticulously decided upon, reflecting our combined vision and dreams. Friends and family often remarked on our seemingly effortless partnership, openly declaring us the epitome of love and compatibility, making me feel deeply grateful and truly blessed. Invitations were sent, RSVPs swiftly returned, and soon our excitement built as the countdown toward the wedding began, promising the happiest day of our lives. But as the date neared, something subtly shifted in Liam's demeanor, a hesitation in his voice, a shadow crossing his face during conversations, though he always quickly masked it with a forced laugh or a reassuring smile. I dismissed it initially, convincing myself it was merely pre-wedding jitters, a temporary phase brought on by the pressure and excitement surrounding our union. Yet, beneath my growing anticipation, a nagging unease began quietly festering, a small whisper of doubt that I continually pushed away, not wanting to spoil the perfect image I'd crafted of us in my mind. 2 weeks before the wedding, Liam seemed withdrawn, spending less time talking about our future, appearing distant even as he reassured me repeatedly, always promising me that nothing was wrong. My friends gently raised their concerns, cautioning me to talk to him, but I defended Liam fiercely, feeling protective of the love I believed we both deeply cherished and deserved. The weekend before our wedding, Liam surprised me with a romantic dinner at our favorite seaside restaurant, giving me a necklace engraved with the date we'd first met, and a heartfelt note declaring his undying love. This gesture melted away my worries, silencing the doubts, convincing me that all would be well. The morning after, Liam held me close, whispering promises that felt sincere, his words calming my anxieties, erasing my fears, making me believe once more in the forever we'd so carefully planned together. As the days ticked by, our families gathered from around the country, filling our home with joyful noise and heartfelt congratulations, turning my doubts into faint, almost invisible echoes at the back of my mind. On the morning of the rehearsal dinner, the house buzzed with excitement, laughter, and the aromatic scent of flowers and freshly baked pastries, all signs pointing toward the perfect celebration we'd long awaited. Yet just as I prepared to head downstairs, fully dressed, heart pounding with nervous excitement, my phone buzzed, a text notification from Liam simply stating, "I'm sorry, forgive me." Confused and startled, I attempted to call him immediately, but his phone rang endlessly, each unanswered ring heightening my sense of panic and disbelief. Moments stretched into torturous minutes, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios, still unable to grasp the idea that something was genuinely, irreparably wrong. My family, noticing my distress, tried desperately to comfort me, insisting it must be a misunderstanding, a simple mistake, or an ill-conceived prank, though I knew Liam well enough to recognize the heartbreaking sincerity of his brief message. Frantically, I called his parents, his best friend, his co-workers, each denying knowledge of his whereabouts, their confusion only compounding my growing dread. Hours passed painfully slow, agony punctuated by anxious phone calls and frantic searches around town, until finally reality hit me like a punch to the gut. Liam had intentionally disappeared, ghosted me mere days before our wedding without a single explanation or farewell. My emotions shifted rapidly from shock to anger, heartbreak to confusion, every stage of grief cycling through me at dizzying speed, leaving me utterly devastated and unable to fully comprehend how drastically my perfect life had imploded. My family shielded me from prying eyes, attempting damage control control as they cancelled wedding vendors, apologized to guests, and quietly packed away the beautiful gown that had come to symbolize shattered dreams rather than joy. Despite their comfort, my internal devastation grew increasingly bitter, tainting every memory of Liam with profound betrayal and unanswered questions, haunting me day and night with a gnawing, relentless pain. Rumors flew wildly among our friends, acquaintances, and even strangers, all speculating what might have caused Liam's sudden departure, their whispers adding salt to the still raw wounds within my heart. Weeks turned to months, yet my pain lingered heavily, transforming slowly into bitterness, suspicion, and a burning desire for answers. Answers that never came despite numerous desperate attempts to contact Liam again. Eventually, I moved cities, burying myself in work, trying to numb myself against the ever-present ache of rejection, abandonment, and humiliation. Though outwardly successful, inwardly I was stuck, haunted by questions, plagued by endless speculation about what had truly happened that day and what dark secret Liam was hiding that led him to discard me so cruelly. Time marched forward, life continued around me, but the scars left by Liam's betrayal stayed stubbornly fresh, shaping my worldview, affecting how I interacted with people, forever altering the trajectory of my life and the once open-hearted woman I'd been. I vowed privately that someday I would find closure, promising myself justice, vindication, or at least answers to the painful mystery that shadowed every moment since that traumatic morning. Little did I realize at the time, fate had already set wheels into motion that would eventually place Liam back into my life, bringing with him revelations I could never have imagined, secrets that he had hidden meticulously, secrets that would finally offer me the chance not only to heal but also to exact a vengeance he would regret forever. In the wake of Liam's sudden disappearance, my life descended into an emotional haze that lingered heavily over every aspect of my existence. Each day felt like trudging through thick mud, every interaction forced and hollow, shadowed by a sadness I couldn't escape or explain. Despite encouragement from my family and close friends, attempts to date again felt meaningless, even disrespectful to the emotional wounds I still carried so vividly inside me. I attempted therapy multiple times, trying desperately to make sense of Liam's departure and regain control of my battered self-esteem, yet each session felt insufficient, unable to touch the raw nerve of betrayal he'd exposed. Work became my refuge, my only solace from thoughts of abandonment and unanswered questions, and my increasing professional success offered superficial comfort, allowing me to project an image of strength and resilience to the outside world, even while I struggled profoundly internally. Despite outward achievements, the absence of closure, the void of explanation from Liam, haunted every quiet moment, transforming even small joys into reminders of the life I had planned but now lost. Sleepless nights were frequent, plagued by memories that still stung as fresh as the day he left, each painful recollection a vivid reminder of my vulnerability, naivete, and shame. I had trusted Liam completely, and the realization that he could abandon me so abruptly fractured my trust not just in romantic relationships but also in humanity itself, making me wary, cynical, and emotionally guarded. Friends who had once gathered joyously to celebrate my impending marriage now treated me with careful gentleness, their sympathy and pity sometimes as painful as the betrayal itself, an ongoing reminder of my altered status as a victim of inexplicable abandonment. I grew increasingly isolated socially, declining invitations, avoiding mutual friends who might inadvertently bring up memories of Liam, until gradually many of these friendships faded quietly away, casualties of my inability to fully move forward or forget. After several agonizing months, I finally decided it was essential to uncover the truth of Liam's departure, not just to find peace but also to reclaim the sense of dignity and self-worth he'd stolen. I knew instinctively that answers wouldn't magically appear. I had to actively seek them myself. Determined, I began quietly investigating Liam's life prior to our wedding, reviewing his social media presence, speaking discreetly with mutual acquaintances, and even subtly questioning former co-workers, hoping desperately to uncover any clue about why he vanished. My investigations were initially fruitless, yielding only vague rumors and unhelpful speculation, further deepening the mystery surrounding Liam's sudden change of heart, pushing me deeper into frustration and despair. Gradually, however, certain minor inconsistencies in his past conversations emerged, strange references to meetings or appointments that, in hindsight, made little sense, or friends he claimed to meet but whom I could never confirm actually existed. Each small anomaly slowly awakened my suspicions, forcing me to question the true nature of the man I thought I had intimately known, raising troubling possibilities that perhaps Liam had secrets far darker or more complicated than I'd previously considered. Determined to understand understand fully, I spent hours poring through our past texts, emails, and messages, obsessively scrutinizing every interaction, searching relentlessly for any hidden meaning or overlooked clue that might finally illuminate Liam's true intentions. It was during one late-night session of obsessive digging that I stumbled upon an old message, previously overlooked, in a private social media account he rarely used. A brief yet cryptic exchange with a woman named Veronica, dated just weeks before our planned wedding. My heart skipped painfully, fear and suspicion gripping me tightly as I clicked onto her profile, discovering, shockingly, that Veronica was someone Liam had never mentioned, her timeline hinting at a complicated past relationship riddled with emotional turmoil and drama. As I continued digging, I found that Veronica lived several states away, far enough to remain unnoticed, yet close enough to raise suspicion about Liam's frequent unexplained weekend absences throughout our engagement. Fueled by desperation and curiosity, I reached out cautiously to Veronica, carefully framing my inquiries to avoid frightening her away while hoping to unearth any information she might possess about Liam's secretive past and motives. After days of tense silence, Veronica finally responded hesitantly, confirming to my horror that she had indeed been involved with Liam for years, starting long before he'd met me, their tumultuous relationship only ending months before our own engagement began. Veronica revealed she had been desperately trying to warn Liam's new partners about his manipulative tendencies, the emotional trauma he'd caused her, and the shocking ease with which he abandoned relationships whenever they became complicated or threatened to reveal his darker secrets. Veronica's account painted Liam in a horrifyingly unfamiliar light, a calculating figure who carefully curated his outward persona of loving fiancé and reliable partner, hiding behind layers of lies, half-truths, and manipulations that now felt painfully clear in retrospect. As Veronica detailed Liam's troubling behavior, emotional manipulation, and chronic dishonesty, my disbelief slowly transformed into cold clarity, forcing me to confront the painful truth I'd been desperately avoiding. Liam had never been the man I believed he was, nor was our love the pure, genuine bond one had so blindly trusted. Veronica confided reluctantly that Liam's past held additional secrets involving deception that went beyond mere romantic betrayals, hinting ominously at possible criminal involvement, financial dishonesty, and a disturbingly ruthless ability to cut ties and disappear completely. Each revelation added new layers of shock, betrayal, and anger, forcing me to reassess everything I believed about my former fiancé, turning him from an idealized lost love into a stranger I barely recognized and deeply feared. Despite my pain, Veronica's courage in confronting the truth empowered me, fueling a new determination to uncover every aspect of Liam's hidden life, regardless of how painful the truths might be. Driven now by righteous anger and determination, I vowed privately to follow this investigation through to its conclusion, fully intent on reclaiming the dignity Liam had stolen, and possibly seeking justice for the emotional scars he left behind. Empowered by these revelations, I began meticulously documenting every piece of evidence, saving screenshots, recording conversations, and compiling a comprehensive dossier of Liam's hidden past, preparing myself emotionally and strategically for the confrontation I was certain would eventually come. I knew this journey would require strength, resilience, and courage unlike anything I had ever imagined, but I also understood instinctively that it was a journey I must complete, not merely for closure, but to ensure Liam could never harm another innocent victim as he'd harmed Veronica and me. Little did I realize as I pursued my investigation with growing fervor, just how deep Liam's secrets would run, how dark his hidden world truly was, and how dramatically uncovering those secrets would alter both our lives forever. Armed with Veronica's unsettling revelations, I became more determined than ever to uncover the full extent of Liam's hidden life, even if that meant venturing into painful territories I'd previously feared to tread. Each night became an endless cycle of digging through social media accounts, archived emails, obscure online forums, and message boards, piecing together the troubling puzzle of Liam's deceitful persona. As I sifted methodically through his digital footprints, I slowly realized just how deeply Liam had woven his web of lies, carefully constructing parallel identities, each tailored to exploit vulnerabilities in the people he claimed to love. My anger and sense of betrayal deepened with every discovery, transforming slowly but surely into a steadfast resolve. This was no longer merely personal. It had become an essential quest for justice and closure, fueled by the memories of every tear shed in his name. With Veronica's help, I was gradually able to pinpoint several of Liam's former victims, individuals from his past who'd also experienced his callous abandonment, emotional manipulation, and calculated betrayal. Each person I contacted echoed similar sentiments of disbelief, confusion, and lingering trauma, painting a frighteningly consistent portrait of Liam as a man who thrived on manipulating trust, intimacy, and vulnerability for his selfish ends. This growing list of testimonies painted Liam as not merely flawed but deeply dangerous, a man whose charm masked an unsettling capacity for emotional cruelty, manipulation, and calculated abandonment. I began carefully compiling and documenting every account, meticulously recording the shocking details of Liam's betrayals, knowing each piece of evidence would someday be instrumental in holding him accountable for his actions. My determination to confront Liam's past drew me deeper into uncomfortable conversations with friends and acquaintances who had remained silent, slowly uncovering layers of complicity and secrets even among those closest to him. Several mutual friends, once hesitant to speak openly, now confessed their suspicions or admitted witnessing questionable behaviors from Liam but choosing silence, fearing retaliation or simply reluctant to interfere. Each new revelation felt simultaneously empowering and devastating, as it forced me to reassess not only my relationship with Liam but also the integrity of friendships in the world around me. Meanwhile, Liam himself remained stubbornly elusive, leaving no digital trace of his current whereabouts, increasing my suspicion that he deliberately erased himself to avoid the repercussions of his past actions. My inquiries into his professional history uncovered abrupt career changes and mysterious gaps in employment that raised significant questions, hinting strongly at a hidden pattern of instability and dishonesty. Through painstaking research and cautious questioning of Liam's former employers and colleagues, I discovered several allegations of misconduct, including embezzlement and financial deception, all mysteriously swept under the rug without official repercussions. The more I unraveled, the clearer it became that Liam's departure wasn't a simple act of emotional cowardice but rather a calculated decision to escape an increasingly fragile facade he could no longer sustain. His carefully maintained public persona as the charming, reliable fiancé crumbled entirely in my mind, replaced by a chilling image of a calculated deceiver whose charm masked deeply rooted malicious intent. Driven now by determination rather than pain alone, I resolved to uncover every hidden corner of Liam's past, knowing it would eventually lead me back to him for the confrontation I'd long desired. Despite frequent warnings from concerned friends to let it go, I could not ignore the burning sense of responsibility to expose Liam, knowing the pain he inflicted on me could easily be repeated on others if left unchecked. My investigation began drawing the attention of Liam's former associates, some of whom subtly warned me off, hinting cryptically that Liam had powerful friends who wouldn't hesitate to silence anyone threatening to expose his secrets. Despite the risks, my courage only grew with each threat or attempt at intimidation, fueled by the undeniable truth that Liam's past had to be revealed, whatever the cost. The stress and obsession of my investigation began taking a toll on my health, manifesting as chronic insomnia, anxiety attacks, and emotional exhaustion. Yet I persisted, unwilling to stop until every dark corner of Liam's life had been exposed. Unexpectedly, I received an anonymous email containing encrypted files, revealing hidden financial accounts, private messages, and incriminating evidence clearly implicating Liam in past fraudulent schemes. As I decrypted and examined the contents, chills ran down my spine. These files contained undeniable proof of Liam's involvement in extensive financial fraud, forgery, and deceit far surpassing anything I'd initially imagined possible. The anonymous sender, likely someone intimately familiar with Liam's inner circle, urged caution, warning me explicitly about the dangerous nature of my quest, yet also encouraging me, acknowledging the righteousness of my pursuit. Equipped now with this damning evidence, I faced an agonizing decision, whether to approach the authorities immediately or wait, continue gathering evidence and confront Liam directly, knowing confrontation might offer more personal closure. After careful consideration, I chose to delay police involvement temporarily, driven by the personal need for Liam himself to acknowledge the destruction he'd caused, not only to me but to countless others caught in his destructive wake. My mission expanded into more covert, direct forms of investigation, secretly traveling to places Liam once frequented, interviewing people he once called friends, colleagues, or lovers, each conversation adding crucial threads to the tapestry of deception he'd so meticulously woven. It was during one such trip to Liam's hometown that I uncovered perhaps the most shocking revelation yet. Liam was not even his true name, a fact that unraveled yet another disturbing layer of lies and deception, making clear the extent of his elaborate charade. Digging deeper, I discovered Liam's original identity, tracking down his estranged family, who provided a grimly illuminating background. A childhood marred by emotional neglect, dishonesty, and manipulation, hinting strongly at psychological damage that shaped the man Liam had become. His own family described a person incapable of genuine emotional bonds, a manipulator driven by survival instincts honed from an early age, a man who'd fled accountability repeatedly throughout his life. With this newfound understanding, morning, my resolve strengthened further. This confrontation wasn't merely about revenge or closure. It was about breaking a dangerous cycle, forcing accountability upon someone who'd spent his entire life evading responsibility. Each revelation drew me inevitably closer to the moment when Liam would finally have to answer for everything he'd done, a moment I'd once feared but now anticipated with grim satisfaction. My journey had transformed me profoundly, changing me from Liam's victim into a determined advocate, willing to risk everything to ensure no one else would ever suffer at his hands. Little did I know, as I prepared meticulously for the inevitable confrontation, Liam had become aware of my relentless pursuit and was silently watching, anticipating our reunion, readying himself for a battle he mistakenly believed he could control. The moment of reckoning approached quickly now, neither of us fully prepared for how dramatically our paths would collide, changing both of our lives irreversibly forever. After months spent meticulously unraveling the twisted threads of Liam's hidden life, the moment I'd been both longing for and dreading finally arrived, the opportunity for a direct confrontation. It began unexpectedly when a mutual acquaintance informed me discreetly that Liam had resurfaced, working under yet another assumed identity, managing a boutique financial advisory firm on the outskirts of Seattle. My heart pounded painfully as I considered this new piece of information, fully aware that confronting Liam directly would test the limits of my emotional and psychological endurance, yet I knew deeply it was necessary to finally close this painful chapter. Deciding impulsively, I booked a flight to Seattle, careful to conceal my intentions, knowing that any hint of my presence might send Liam back into hiding again, robbing me of my hard-earned opportunity. On the flight, I rehearsed endless scenarios in my mind, practicing conversations that ranged from calm demands for answers to furious, raw expressions of the pain he had caused, knowing nothing could truly prepare me emotionally for seeing him again. Arriving in Seattle, I settled discreetly into a hotel, my nerves frayed by anticipation and fear, yet my determination steady, unwavering despite the anxiety threatening to overwhelm me. Early the next morning, dressed professionally to blend seamlessly into the upscale corporate environment, I approached the sleek office building where Liam reportedly worked, heart racing uncontrollably, emotions swirling tumultuously beneath a carefully composed exterior. Stepping through the entrance, I felt a surreal sense of disconnection, as though watching myself from afar, the gravity of the moment nearly suffocating in intensity. Gathering every ounce of courage, I introduced myself casually to the receptionist, claiming a vague business-related pretext for my visit, asking politely to see Liam by his newest alias, James Sullivan. Minutes passed with agonizing slowness, each second stretching unbearably, my pulse thundering loudly in my ears as the receptionist smiled and called upstairs, unaware of the life-altering drama unfolding silently around her. When Liam finally appeared, emerging from an elevator mere feet away, time seemed to freeze. Our eyes locked immediately, shock registering plainly on his face, quickly replaced by a practiced mask of calm that failed entirely to hide the turmoil clearly visible in his expression. Liam looked different, older, lines of tension etched around eyes that had once appeared warm and sincere, now guarded, calculating, devoid of the charm I once found irresistible. "We need to talk," I said quietly but firmly, keeping my voice even despite the storm of emotions swirling violently within me, each word chosen carefully to convey my seriousness, determination, and control over this encounter. Liam hesitated briefly, clearly assessing escape routes or possible ways to deflect responsibility, but seeing no immediate solution, reluctantly nodded, directing me wordlessly toward a private conference room down the hall. Once the door closed behind us, leaving us completely alone for the first time since he'd vanished from my life, silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken accusations, pain, and unfinished conversations from years prior. I could see Liam's carefully cultivated persona cracking, his calm demeanor fraying at the edges, betraying glimpses of anxiety, guilt, or perhaps even fear beneath his meticulously maintained facade. My voice, trembling slightly despite my efforts at composure, finally broke the silence, directly addressing the painful abandonment that had haunted me relentlessly since that fateful morning when he ghosted me mere days before our wedding. Liam, initially defensive, began offering a rehearsed, polished explanation, a practiced litany of excuses, vague apologies, and attempts to justify his abrupt disappearance by invoking personal issues, claiming emotional overwhelm, panic, and pressure as catalysts for his actions. Unwilling to let him deflect blame so easily, I revealed carefully selected pieces of evidence I'd painstakingly gathered, screenshots, testimonies, financial records, and the damning truths uncovered through conversations with Veronica and numerous others he had hurt. With each revelation, Liam's confident facade fractured further, discomfort evolving rapidly into genuine alarm as he recognized the depth and meticulousness of my investigation, realizing realizing he was cornered by irrefutable truths he'd hoped never to face again. His excuses became increasingly desperate, attempting to plead, bargain, and appeal emotionally to my residual feelings for him, each manipulative tactic now transparent and ineffective, serving only to fuel my anger and resolve to hold him accountable. Pushing forward relentlessly, I confronted Liam about his hidden identity, his fraudulent schemes, and the trail of emotional and financial devastation he had left behind, forcing him at last to directly face the immense harm he'd inflicted on so many innocent victims. Liam's demeanor shifted visibly, revealing the true depths of his callousness and desperation as he attempted threats, warning that exposing him would result in dangerous consequences from powerful figures he claimed protected him. Far from deterring me, these threats emboldened my resolve further, confirming beyond doubt that my actions weren't simply personal vengeance. They were a necessary act of justice against someone whose manipulations had destroyed countless lives, including mine. I coldly informed Liam I had compiled all evidence meticulously, prepared carefully organized files to deliver immediately to law enforcement, regulatory authorities, and even local media, fully determined to expose every facet of his deception publicly unless he took immediate responsibility and accepted the consequences. Liam's reaction was raw, panicked, desperation replacing any remaining vestiges of his carefully constructed charisma. He pleaded openly now, begging me shamelessly for mercy, for a second chance, a plea grotesquely ironic given the countless second chances he had denied others without hesitation. Witnessing Liam's vulnerability, his desperate pleas offered neither satisfaction nor relief, only an uncomfortable sadness at the sheer waste and destruction caused by his selfishness, dishonesty, and inability to form genuine emotional connections. Yet, despite his pleas, I remained resolute, clearly outlining the consequences he now faced, emphasizing there would be no escaping accountability this time, his actions finally catching up with him after years spent evading responsibility and manipulating others. Liam finally slumped into defeat, visibly crushed by recognition of his impending ruin, his confidence utterly shattered, reduced to begging for forgiveness, promising desperately to make amends, a promise neither of us genuinely believed possible anymore. With the confrontation concluded, I felt a profound mix of exhaustion, sadness, and undeniable relief, understanding at last that true closure came not from revenge, but from reclaiming control, dignity, and power over the narrative Liam had sought to deny me. As I left the office, breathing in the fresh Seattle air, feeling lighter than I had in years, I knew the hardest part of my journey was behind me, but the consequences of our confrontation were just beginning. Liam would soon face the public reckoning he'd long deserved, forced finally into the harsh light of truth he'd spent his entire life avoiding. However, unknown to Liam, I still held on to one crucial secret, one final revelation I hadn't yet shared, waiting for the precise moment when its disclosure would have maximum impact, ensuring Liam felt the true depth of regret and humiliation his betrayal had earned him. As I stepped into the waiting taxi, leaving Liam behind to confront the ruins of his meticulously built empire, I knew this secret would soon become the ultimate reckoning, the final twist Liam would never anticipate, one that would change everything for both of us forever. Following our dramatic confrontation in Seattle, my return home felt surreal. Though physically exhausted and emotionally drained, I experienced an unfamiliar clarity, a sense of inner peace I'd long believed impossible. Liam's desperate pleas still echoed vividly in my memory, his defeated expression etched into my mind, yet despite the satisfaction of seeing him finally held accountable, I knew our story wasn't fully complete. There remained one significant secret, a deeply buried truth, meticulously safeguarded throughout my entire investigation, a secret whose revelation I deliberately delayed, knowing the precise moment had yet to arrive. In the days following our confrontation, news swiftly broke across local and national media, detailing Liam's elaborate fraud schemes, extensive financial deceit, and the heartless betrayals inflicted upon numerous innocent victims over the years. Reports featured testimonies from his past relationships, including Veronica's heartbreaking account and my own painful story, highlighting the emotional devastation he'd left behind, forever destroying the carefully crafted image he'd built. Liam was publicly disgraced, his face plastered across newspapers, television screens, and digital media outlets, leaving him no sanctuary or refuge from the relentless scrutiny of public judgment. Authorities soon launched comprehensive investigations into his financial dealings, rapidly uncovering a complex web of deceit, fraud, and illegal activities far more extensive than even I'd anticipated. Liam was soon arrested, charged with multiple counts of financial fraud, forgery, identity theft, and embezzlement, charges that carried significant penalties, ensuring he faced severe consequences for the years of suffering he'd callously inflicted. Despite the satisfaction of justice finally served, I felt compelled to privately reach out to other victims, offering support and creating a tight-knit community where we shared mutual understanding, strength, and the assurance we weren't alone. In this shared journey of healing, friendships blossomed, forged from the pain we had all endured, gradually transforming into a powerful movement that advocated tirelessly for justice, accountability, and emotional healing for victims of similar betrayals. Even as Liam awaited his trial, desperate attempts by his lawyers to negotiate plea bargains were promptly rejected. The prosecution, buoyed by extensive evidence meticulously documented in my investigation, insisted firmly on pursuing maximum penalties, fully committed to ensuring Liam faced comprehensive accountability. Meanwhile, my own life began shifting dramatically. No longer shackled by lingering trauma or unanswered questions, I rediscovered passions I'd abandoned, rebuilt friendships that had languished, and found genuine joy again, embracing opportunities to share my story publicly, inspiring others still trapped in the shadows of similar betrayals. Despite this newfound freedom and growing public advocacy, the secret I still withheld weighed heavily upon me. A profound, life-altering truth about Liam's identity and history, something even the most detailed media coverage had yet to uncover, a truth that, once revealed, would irrevocably alter Liam's perception of himself and his past. This secret, discovered almost accidentally during my painstaking research into Liam's background, was rooted deeply in his own family history, a startling revelation that even his closest relatives had chosen to keep hidden, fearing its explosive consequences. Liam, believing himself to be the abandoned victim of a troubled childhood, had built his entire identity around narratives of personal betrayal, abandonment, and victimhood, justifying his cruel treatment of others as a twisted form of self-defense against a hostile world. The reality I'd uncovered, however, was radically different. Liam's biological mother, whom he believed had cruelly abandoned him, had actually fought desperately for years to regain custody, only to be repeatedly thwarted by manipulative relatives who deliberately poisoned Liam against her. Documentation clearly proved Liam's childhood had been deliberately sabotaged, his memories twisted and rewritten by caregivers driven by greed, bitterness, and deep-seated resentment, shaping Liam into the deeply manipulative and emotionally detached individual he'd become. Realizing the profound implications of this revelation, I debated fiercely within myself, uncertain whether revealing this devastating truth publicly would heal or merely exacerbate Liam's deep-rooted emotional wounds. Ultimately, I understood the necessity of complete honesty, recognizing that true justice required not only accountability for Liam's actions but also acknowledgement of the lies and manipulations that originally shaped his destructive behavior. Carefully timing the revelation, I discreetly reached out to Liam through his legal representatives, requesting a private face-to-face meeting within the confines of the correctional facility awaiting his trial. Though initially resistant, Liam eventually agreed, likely driven by curiosity or perhaps by lingering hope that this meeting might soften my resolve or somehow mitigate his impending punishment. Stepping once again into Liam's presence, behind the stark walls and imposing security of the prison, I felt remarkably calm, confident, and composed, knowing exactly how this final revelation would unfold. Liam sat silently across from me, visibly diminished, his former confidence utterly shattered, replaced by cautious apprehension, confusion, and quiet desperation. Without preamble, I carefully laid out the truth of his family history, providing meticulously gathered documents, sworn affidavits, photographs, letters, and detailed evidence proving unequivocally that Liam's entire understanding of his childhood and identity had been fabricated. At first, Liam stubbornly rejected this information, accusing me of deception, cruelty, and manipulation, a deeply ironic accusation given his lifelong patterns of precisely those behaviors against others. Yet, as I methodically presented every piece of indisputable evidence, Liam's disbelief slowly shifted towards stunned acceptance, each revelation striking visibly at the fragile core of his carefully constructed self-image. The realization hit him profoundly. His life had been built entirely upon falsehoods, each cruel manipulation and betrayal he'd committed a twisted reflection of the manipulations perpetrated against him from childhood. Liam broke down emotionally, openly weeping, overwhelmed by a grief far deeper and more authentic than any I'd previously witnessed from him. For the first time, his sorrow was genuine, raw, born from the profound awareness that he had spent his entire life perpetuating the very cycle of betrayal and abandonment he'd been unknowingly subjected to. Yet, rather than providing Liam with easy comfort or immediate forgiveness, I gently but firmly emphasized the essential truth. Understanding the roots of his trauma explained but never justified the pain he'd inflicted on countless innocent victims. Our conversation concluded quietly, with Liam expressing sincere remorse, not merely as a strategy or attempt at manipulation, but genuinely recognizing the gravity and consequences consequences of his actions, finally comprehending the full scope of destruction he'd caused. Leaving the prison, I felt an overwhelming blend of relief, sorrow, and final closure, understanding deeply that revealing this hidden truth was not merely an act of vengeance. It was the completion of a painful journey toward emotional honesty, accountability, and the hope for genuine healing, even for someone as profoundly broken as Liam. Yet even as Liam grappled privately with his shattered identity, neither of us fully anticipated the dramatic and explosive final act still awaiting both of us. A public reckoning that would reveal once and for all whether redemption or ruin was Liam's ultimate fate. After revealing the profoundly devastating truth about Liam's family history, I knew our paths were nearing a critical juncture, one that would define the rest of both our lives. Following our emotional confrontation in the correctional facility, Liam remained in isolation, deeply affected by the revelations I'd shared, beginning to fully grasp the far-reaching consequences of his lifetime of deceit and betrayal. Despite the relief of finally confronting Liam with the truth, my emotions remained complex, a mixture of compassion, residual anger, and genuine sadness for the wasted potential of the man I once loved deeply. Yet even with personal closure achieved, the public trial loomed large, promising to be a highly publicized spectacle that neither Liam nor I could escape, setting the stage for a dramatic and conclusive reckoning of his actions. As the trial commenced, the media attention intensified dramatically, attracting widespread public interest, fueled by the shocking details of Liam's elaborate manipulations, fraud, and emotional abuse revealed through compelling testimonies. Numerous victims courageously shared their stories publicly, detailing years of emotional devastation, financial ruin, and psychological trauma inflicted upon them by Liam's carefully orchestrated lies. Veronica took the stand, delivering a powerful testimony about her painful experiences, exposing Liam's methods of manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional cruelty in heartbreaking detail, leaving few spectators unmoved. When it was finally my turn to testify, I approached the witness stand with steady resolve, carefully recounting the events surrounding Liam's abrupt abandonment days before our wedding, describing the deep emotional scars his betrayal left on my life. As I spoke, I deliberately emphasized not only the devastating impact Liam's deception had on me personally but also the importance of accountability, honesty, and justice, not merely for my own healing, but for the countless others still suffering silently from similar betrayals. During cross-examination, Liam's lawyers attempted to undermine my credibility, suggesting motivations of vengeance or bitterness, but the overwhelming amount of carefully documented evidence I'd painstakingly gathered quickly discredited their attempts. Liam himself sat silently throughout, visibly diminished by shame and regret, no longer capable of maintaining his previously impenetrable facade, clearly recognizing the irreparable damage caused by his lifetime of deception. Public opinion overwhelmingly condemned Liam, who became a symbol of the dangers posed by emotional manipulation, financial fraud, and unchecked deceit, his trial sparking broader conversations about psychological abuse and accountability. When the verdict was finally delivered, guilty on all charges, Liam accepted his fate quietly, offering no protest, fully acknowledging publicly the depth of harm he'd caused, openly expressing remorse to those he'd wronged. Liam's genuine expression of remorse, combined with revelations about his traumatic upbringing and manipulated childhood, stirred a complex reaction in public discourse, triggering deeper conversations about the cycle of abuse and trauma perpetuating such harmful behavior. Despite the severity of his crimes and the long prison sentence awaiting him, Liam's newfound self-awareness inspired unexpected sympathy among some observers, who began calling not just for punishment, but for genuine rehabilitation and healing opportunities to prevent future harm. Privately, I wrestled deeply with conflicting emotions: gratitude that justice had finally prevailed, sadness for the life Liam had wasted, and uncertainty about whether genuine redemption was possible for someone who'd inflicted so much pain. Yet as months passed, Liam, confined behind bars, actively embraced counseling, therapy, and rehabilitation opportunities offered to him, demonstrating an authentic commitment to confronting the deep-seated psychological trauma underlying his destructive behavior. Gradually, through letters he cautiously began writing to those he'd harmed, Liam painstakingly sought forgiveness, fully acknowledging responsibility, sincerely apologizing without excuses, clearly demonstrating the depth of his changed perspective. Initially skeptical, I nonetheless cautiously opened the first letter addressed to me, reading carefully chosen words conveying profound regret, a newfound humility, and a sincere recognition of the permanent scars he'd inflicted. Moved unexpectedly by his vulnerability and sincerity, I responded carefully, not offering forgiveness immediately, but instead expressing cautious acknowledgement of his efforts to change, encouraging his continued path toward accountability and personal transformation. This this correspondence became a cautious, careful dialogue, allowing me to witness firsthand Liam's slow but meaningful journey toward emotional maturity, genuine empathy, and accountability, transformations I'd once believed utterly impossible. Recognizing the potential broader impact of Liam's story, I began collaborating with advocacy groups, counseling professionals, and victims' rights organizations, working tirelessly to raise awareness about emotional abuse, psychological manipulation, and the critical importance of accountability and rehabilitation. Sharing Liam's story publicly allowed both of us to contribute meaningfully toward broader conversations about trauma, abuse, and the vital necessity of healing and prevention, a profoundly unexpected redemption of a painful past. Gradually, the darkness Liam had inflicted on my life gave way to genuine purpose, passion, and the realization that true justice encompassed more than mere punishment. It included profound healing, growth, and preventing future harm. Over time, Liam himself began actively participating from behind bars, providing detailed, candid insights into the psychology of emotional manipulators, openly sharing his experience as both perpetrator and victim, emphasizing the importance of breaking cycles of trauma. Public response evolved positively, recognizing Liam's sincere efforts not as a justification for his past actions, but as an essential acknowledgement that true accountability must include personal transformation and prevention of future harm. Liam's story thus became a powerful cautionary tale, deeply impacting countless lives, promoting greater empathy, awareness, and understanding about the complexities underlying emotional abuse, deceit, and manipulation. Years later, as Liam's sentence neared its conclusion, both of our lives had profoundly transformed. Mine now dedicated entirely to advocacy, healing, and empowering survivors. Liam's focused squarely on ongoing self-reflection, rehabilitation, and publicly advocating against the very behaviors he'd once perpetuated. Our paths crossed once more, carefully, respectfully, and this time without bitterness, anger, or resentment, both of us recognizing clearly that true redemption required an unwavering commitment to preventing further pain and promoting profound healing. In a final private conversation, Liam quietly expressed gratitude, not for forgiveness, but for forcing him to confront truths he'd long denied, ultimately facilitating his journey toward genuine accountability and lasting change. As we parted ways amicably, each returning to lives shaped profoundly by the pain, betrayal, and ultimate redemption we'd shared, I realized deeply that closure had come full circle, not merely through revenge, punishment, or confrontation, but through genuine transformation, meaningful accountability, and the shared commitment never to allow such profound harm to happen again. The past Liam had inflicted on me would forever shape my identity, but now it was defined not by bitterness, but by resilience, empowerment, and a steadfast dedication to preventing similar harm from reaching others. And Liam, now carrying permanently the painful weight of his actions, dedicated himself to becoming a cautionary voice, forever marked by the secret he deeply regretted and the truth I'd finally forced him to confront.